My name's Michael, I'm 38, and I've always been the boring sibling. At least, that's what my younger sister, Alana, liked to tell people, usually with a smug laugh and a toss of her perfectly highlighted hair. She was always the golden child, the one who never did wrong, even when she wrecked Dad's car at 17 or failed out of her first college. Twice, I was the one who studied, worked double shifts, and quietly paid the mortgage when our parents hit a rough patch. But of course, none of that ever made it into the family group chat. What did was whatever Alana was doing. Her yoga certifications, her luxury crystal healing Etsy shop, and her plans to open a boutique that somehow never materialized. Still, I kept my distance. I figured if I worked hard, saved smart, and didn't rock the boat, I could build a life that didn't depend on family politics. That plan worked, until it didn't. See, 5 years ago I bought a beach house. Not a shack on stilts, but a real place. 2 stories, wraparound deck, panoramic views of the ocean, the kind of place you only ever see in vacation brochures. It was an investment, sure, but more than that, it was my dream. I'd always wanted a quiet retreat, something away from the chaos of work, the city, and yes, my family. The funny part? I paid cash. After years of working in finance, making smart investments, and living like a monk, I'd finally saved enough to buy the place outright. No loans, no mortgage. Just me, the keys, and the sound of waves in the background. It was mine. At least, that's what I thought. The first few months were bliss. I took solo trips on long weekends, invited close friends for barbecues, even let my coworkers use it once for a small retreat. Everyone respected the space, treated it with care. Everyone except my family. The first time I let Alana use it, it was supposed to be for a quiet weekend. She was going through a bad breakup, which in Alana speak meant her boyfriend finally realized she saw him more as a walking credit card than a partner. I gave her the key, stocked the fridge, even left a bottle of wine and a little note, just trying to be nice. She posted pictures on Instagram like it was hers. Told her friends it was a gift from Dad. Threw a party. Someone spilled red wine on my custom white oak floors. I didn't say anything. I should have, but I didn't. I cleaned up the mess, paid for a pro to refinish the damaged section, and told myself not to overreact. Family, right? Over the next year, it happened again. And again. I'd go down to the house for what I thought would be a peaceful weekend and find used towels in the laundry, garbage that hadn't been taken out, half-empty bags of chips in the pantry. Once I found a stranger sleeping on my guest room couch. Alana's excuse? Oh, that's just Jesse. He's chill. Don't be weird about it. I tried setting boundaries. Changed the locks. Told her I needed more privacy. She'd cry to Mom. Mom would call me dramatic. Dad would say, just let her use it once in a while. Mike, she's your sister. Every time I said no, I was the villain. The final straw came one weekend in May. I'd taken Friday off work, booked a few days for myself, and arrived at the beach house with a stack of books and plans for absolutely nothing. When I pulled into the driveway, there were already 3 cars parked there. I walked in, confused, and there she was, Alana, in a bikini, drinking from a margarita glass with 2 of her friends sprawled out on my couch like they owned the place. Hey, she said, like I was the unexpected guest crashing her weekend. You should have told me you were coming. I could have made room. Made room. In my house. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat outside on the deck, listening to the waves and watching the moonlight stretch across the water. I felt like a guest in my own space. And I realized I was done. I called a lawyer the next morning. Not just any lawyer, but someone I knew would make this airtight. I told him everything. The title was in my name alone. The deed was clean. No liens, no disputes. I asked what it would take to sell it, fast. He laid it all out. I gave him the go-ahead. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. I went back to work, lived my life. Quietly gathered my things on my next visit. Took photos of everything for the listing. Cleaned it up. Took down my art, my keepsakes, the little touches that made it feel like mine. Then came the moment. Last weekend, I invited everyone down for a family weekend. My treat. Cookout. Ocean breeze, the whole thing. Dad was thrilled. Mom brought way too much potato salad. Alana showed up in a white sundress like she was posing for a commercial. About an hour into the day, we were all standing on the back deck when she looked around and said it. Can't believe this'll be mine someday. Dad promised it to me when he retires. I blinked. What? She smirked. Yeah. He said you'd want to keep things in the family. Obviously, I'm the best person to keep it going. Mom chimed in without missing a beat. It's better in her name anyway. You're always so busy, Michael. I stared at them. For the first time in a long time, I didn't smile or nod or try to explain. I just turned to my lawyer, who had driven up with me under the guise of being a friend. I handed him the keys. List it first thing tomorrow. Alana's wine glass hit the deck with a sharp clink. You can't sell my house, she shouted. I looked her straight in the eye. Funny, that's exactly what I'm doing. She stormed inside, barefoot on the hardwood, heels in hand, like she was about to reclaim a throne someone had usurped. I heard cabinets slam and the unmistakable creak of the master bedroom door flying open. I glanced at my lawyer, who didn't flinch. He just took out his phone and started documenting the house layout for the listing. Total pro. Alana came back out, waving a photo in her hand like it was evidence in a courtroom. It was a picture of her and me from 10 years ago, one of the few framed shots I had left in the house, back when we still got along. She held it up like she was testifying. You said this was our house. You let me stay here. You let me decorate the guest room. Her voice cracked with faux disbelief, like she'd just discovered betrayal. I built memories here, Michael. I didn't even raise my voice. You broke in 3 times after I changed the locks. That was months ago, she snapped. And I only did that because you were being selfish. I could feel Mom inching toward the doorway behind her, like she wasn't sure whether to join in or pretend she didn't raise this monster. Dad stood frozen at the grill like if he didn't move, he wouldn't get pulled into it. It was always like that. Alana would erupt, and they'd all look to me to be the calm one, the rational one, the fixer. Not this time. I stepped past her and pointed toward the driveway. Go cool off. You're embarrassing yourself. That's when Mom decided to speak. Michael, come on. She's just upset. You don't have to sell the house just because of a little misunderstanding. Let her calm down, and we'll talk. I laughed. Not out of amusement, just pure disbelief. A misunderstanding? You two literally just said the house should be hers. That's not a misunderstanding. That's entitlement. Alana dropped the picture frame to the floor. It cracked on impact. This is what you do, isn't it? She said, pointing at me like she'd rehearsed the accusation in her head 100 times. You wait until people are happy and then rip it away. Just like you always did growing up. You think money makes you better than us. I stared at her for a second, long enough for her to look a little uncertain. No, I said, but it means I don't have to keep pretending this family deserves my generosity. Silence. That hit harder than any scream would have. For a full 30 seconds, nobody moved. The only sound was the ocean crashing in the distance and the occasional squawk of a gull overhead. Then Dad finally opened his mouth. Son, this isn't the way to handle things. You can't just what? I cut in, turning to him. Can't just reclaim my property from people who keep disrespecting me? Can't just make a decision without running it through the family guilt committee? Michael, Mom warned, like I was a child about to cause a scene in church. But the scene had already happened. I didn't make it. They did. I walked into the living room, picked up the pieces of the shattered frame, and placed them in a plastic bag I had packed for trash. I took my time, each motion deliberate, like I was cleaning more than just glass. I was cleaning out the last pieces of obligation I'd been dragging around for years. Alana followed me inside. You can't just sell it without telling us. What about the family vacation next month? I already invited people. I never agreed to that vacation, I said. You told everyone it was happening, then assumed I'd host it. Again. Because you always do, she snapped. That's what you're for. You're the responsible one. The one who pays for stuff. That was it. The quiet part. Said out loud. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't a sibling bond. This was a contract they thought I signed without reading the terms. I wasn't a brother. I was a utility. I'm not for anything, I said. Not anymore. By now, my lawyer was done. He walked over with a small nod. I've got everything I need. We'll file the listing in the morning. You'll get the paperwork to sign remotely by end of day. I'll send the staging team next week. Mom sat on the couch, eyes wide like she couldn't believe this wasn't just a bluff. You'd really do this? To your own family? I turned to her, and the words came out calm, steady. You all made it clear this wasn't mine anymore. So I'm selling it before I have to pretend I don't hear the whispers behind my back. Before I'm told again how it'll be hers once Dad retires. I'm done playing along. Alana scoffed. You're seriously unhinged. No, I said, stepping out the front door. Key's already in my pocket. I'm finally sane. I paused on the porch. The air was sharp with salt, and the breeze pulled at my shirt like it was nudging me forward. Alana called after me one last time. "You won't get away with this, Mike." I didn't even turn around. I just said, "Watch me." Then I got in my car and drove away, leaving behind more than just a house. And that's when my phone started buzzing in the cup holder. First Mom, then Dad, then Alana, then someone I didn't recognize. And one message preview that made me stop breathing for a second. "She's losing her mind." "What did you do?" I just smiled. Then I opened the message. It was from Alana's best friend, Camille. We'd never been close. She was always more like Alana's shadow than a friend. But over the years, Camille and I had exchanged the occasional polite conversation at family events or beach barbecues. She was the type who thrived on chaos as long as it didn't stain her own clothes. So for her to message me now, with that tone, "She's losing her mind. What did you do?" meant something had snapped. I waited a beat before replying. Just gave her what she asked for. A house she doesn't have to worry about anymore. No response. I set my phone face down in the passenger seat, eyes on the road. But my mind wasn't really on the drive anymore. It was on the last 10 years, maybe more. All the ways I'd let things slide. Let myself be used under the banner of being the good son. Quietly covering Dad's loan payments when his business dipped. Co-signing Mom's credit card after hers got declined at the pharmacy. Helping Alana move. And move again. And again. All of it stacked up, like I was some emotional pack mule. I didn't mind helping back then. I told myself it was love. That family meant sacrifice. But love doesn't come with expectations you'll always say yes. And sacrifice isn't sacrifice when it's demanded. As I pulled into my apartment's underground garage, my phone lit up again. This time it was a voicemail from Dad. I didn't listen to it. Just watched the transcription scroll across the screen. "Mike, let's not do anything rash here. It's not too late to work this out. Let's talk before you finalize anything." Delete. A second later, a text from Alana. "I'm done with you. Don't ever contact me again. You ruined everything." I took a deep breath and sat back in the seat, the engine still humming beneath me. Ruined everything. As if I had smashed something whole instead of just removing myself from the scaffolding holding up her fantasy life. I turned off the car. When I got upstairs, I showered, threw my clothes in the hamper, and sat on the couch with a blanket and a cold bottle of water. No TV. No music. Just silence. Not the heavy kind. The good kind. The kind that doesn't come with tension under the surface, waiting to explode. Around 10:30 that night, Camille messaged again. "She's telling everyone you scammed her. That she was promised the house, and you stole it out from under her." She posted a crying video on Instagram. Said you're trying to sell her inheritance. I almost laughed. Camille replied instantly. "Look, I'm not trying to take sides, but she's making a scene. Your mom's reposting it. People are leaving nasty comments. It's turning into a thing." Of course it was. Alana never did quiet. She couldn't scream into a pillow, she had to scream into a camera. Had to make sure people saw her heartbreak. Had to craft the narrative where she was the victim and I was the cold, corporate villain. I opened Instagram just to see how bad it was. There she was, Liv. Eyes red, nose running, though somehow still wearing a perfectly curated off-the-shoulder sweater. She sniffled into the phone like she'd just buried a puppy. "And I just feel so betrayed," she said, voice cracking in just the right spot. It's like, he waited until I had real plans for the house. Until I finally felt like it was mine. And now he's just taking it. The comments were a flood of sympathy. "He sounds toxic. Cut him off. You deserve better, Queen. Family doesn't do that to each other." But one comment stuck out. A small one. Not aggressive, just curious. Wait, wasn't it his name on the deed? I watched it sit there. No replies. Just existing. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. How many people had I supported who would turn on me the second their gravy train ran dry? How many smiles had been fake? How many thank yous only said to keep me pliable? The next morning, I woke up to a dozen more messages. Camille again. 2 coworkers. Even my aunt, who rarely called unless she needed tech help. But it was the message from my cousin Drew that stopped me cold. "Dude, they're trying to freeze the sale. Your mom's saying the house was bought with family money. Dad says they're talking to a lawyer. Thought you should know." I stared at the message, reread it twice, and then felt a cold flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. They actually think they can take it from me. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a house anymore. They weren't mad because they lost something. They were mad because I stopped giving. And I was just getting started. I sat with that message from Drew for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen, trying to freeze the sale. That phrase looped in my head like a bad song. It was absurd, almost laughable, but deep down, it didn't surprise me. Not anymore. The house was mine. Every cent of it had come from my own accounts, documented and taxed. There was no family money. Just family expectations and a long history of me silently filling in the gaps so they could keep pretending they were stable. They wanted to freeze the sale? Fine. Let them try. I forwarded Drew's message to my lawyer along with the title deed, purchase receipt, wire transfer confirmation, and even the tax statement showing I'd paid everything myself. 10 minutes later, he replied, "Let them bluff. They've got no legal claim, and if they actually try to take it to court, they're going to get humiliated. Want me to send a cease and desist to shut it down early?" I told him yes, and to include a clause that if they kept spreading lies online about me stealing anything, we'd pursue defamation. Meanwhile, Alana was still live streaming her heartbreak every few hours. I didn't even have to check Instagram anymore. People were sending me clips. Her voice was raw, dramatic, and just unhinged enough to draw attention, but not quite enough to be dismissed as theatrics. At least, not yet. She always said she'd take care of me. She sobbed in one video, curling into her couch like she was on a soap opera. After everything I sacrificed for this family, giving up my dreams, staying close to home, and this is how I'm treated? Like a parasite? I shook my head and turned the phone face down. Giving up her dreams? She dropped out of 3 different majors, ghosted 2 real estate jobs, and spent 6 months selling crystals on TikTok before asking mom for rent money. But perception was everything, and she knew how to spin it. She wanted the world to believe I had wronged her. And for a while, it worked. A few distant relatives texted me long paragraphs about not letting material things come between family. A second cousin I hadn't spoken to in 8 years said I should pray about forgiveness. One even had the nerve to say, "You don't need the money anyway." That was when it hit me. This wasn't about logic. It was about entitlement. About a group of people so used to me playing the role of quiet benefactor that when I finally took back control, they saw it as theft. I wasn't angry. I was insulted. By the following Monday, the house was officially on the market. My lawyer made it clear in legal terms that the property was solely owned by me, purchased with independent income, and there were no legitimate claims of joint ownership. We received a few mild threats of reconsideration from mom, then a panicked call from dad asking if we could talk like men. I let it go to voicemail, but the firestorm hit its peak the day after the listing went live. Alana called me. First time in weeks. She didn't scream, didn't even raise her voice. She cried. "Mike, please," she said through broken sobs. "You don't understand what you're doing. I need this. This house, it's the only thing that ever felt like mine." There was a pause. I waited. Then came the real reason for the call. I already told people I'd be hosting the wedding there. And just like that, the crocodile tears evaporated. The act slipped. The whole thing, every post, every message, every accusation, was a PR stunt to keep me from selling the house before her big moment. I didn't even know she was engaged. And of course, it wasn't about the marriage. It was about the image. She wanted to post aerial shots of herself in a white dress on the deck of the family beach house with the ocean behind her like a movie set. I let her sit in silence. Then I asked one question. "Did you ever really think this was yours?" She didn't answer. Just hung up. 2 days later, the house sold. Full cash offer, over asking price. The buyers were a retired couple from Oregon who loved the view and didn't care about its history. They closed fast. No contingencies. The funds cleared in less than a week. I didn't throw a party. I didn't pop champagne. I just sat down, reviewed my bank statement, and felt the most profound silence I'd experienced in years. Then I started canceling things. First, I stopped covering mom's monthly grocery bill. Then I cut the automatic payments I'd set up for dad's life insurance premium, something I'd quietly handled since he got denied for better coverage years ago. I froze the card Alana had been using for emergencies. It was under my name. She'd used it for manicures and sushi. Then I sent one group email to the entire family. No drama. No rants. Just the facts. Effective immediately, I will no longer be financially supporting any of you. If I previously helped cover rent, groceries, insurance, or emergency expenses, those accounts have been closed or transferred. The beach house has been sold. Please do not contact me about money. I suggest reviewing your personal budgets. Best, Michael. That was it. The fallout was nuclear. Mom called first. "You're being cruel." I said, "No. I'm just finished." Dad texted, Can we at least talk about this? I replied, I tried for years. Nobody listened. Alana left a voicemail that started with, "You heartless," and I deleted it before she could finish. Then, silence. It lasted a full month. No calls. No texts. Not a single comment online. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd moved on. And then the letter came. Handwritten. From Alana. Inside was a single page. No apology. No acknowledgement of anything she'd done. Just one sentence. When Dad dies, the lake cabin better not be yours too. I laughed. Out loud. And then, for the first time in my life, I blocked my entire family. Every number. Every account. Every platform. I changed my email. I changed my locks. And then I booked a week-long trip to Iceland. Alone. No Wi-Fi. No phone service. Just quiet. Not the kind of quiet you suffer through. The kind you choose. And in that silence, standing at the edge of a glacier with nobody needing anything from me, I finally realized. I wasn't selfish. I wasn't cruel. I was free.